Here we go.
Get ready, get set for the best movie and pop culture talk in the universe. It's The Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves with your hosts, Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado.
Welcome back to another episode of The Good Brothers. I'm Alex, that's Mike. We are The Good Brother, the best brothers. We are the middlemen between New York, LA, and the entire universe, Spider-Verse. We are back from our Thanksgiving break. Say hi to the folks, Mike.
Hi, folks. Mike, how was your Thanksgiving break, good brother? I actually decided to let my labor take some time off, so hopefully you enjoyed it.
It was great. The football games were what they were, but the food was amazing.
And we lost a Sunday night game, and yet somehow the NFL decided in all its wisdom to keep pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. And we will get that tonight as we are recording this on a Wednesday in the beautiful city of Chicago. But good brother, we're not here to talk all about sports and railroad the NFL. We actually have some really interesting, cool, and heartfelt stories that we need to get to today's episode. So why don't we go ahead and start off with the big one that we didn't get a chance to preview and review last week, so we're just going to gush about it today. Let's go ahead, guys. It is time. It is Mandalorian time here in The Good Brothers. We are in the cantina hanging out here on the studio, so let's go ahead and put our Star Wars universe caps on, good brother. The last few weeks, we saw, obviously, Rosario Dawson make her awesome fan fiction mind actually put into reality debut as Ahsoka Tano, and we found out the child's name. So just gush on it.
I loved it. It was probably my favorite episode of the season, if not tied for first. I think it's a perfect episode. My always issue is I want it to be longer because I love it so much. We now have a name for the child. It is Grogu. I think it's an adorable name. We're talking about a species where we have a Gatto and a Yoda. So I don't know what people are expecting, like a Frank or a Timmy. But Grogu makes sense. We get our, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. And again, we say it on the show all the time. Representation matters. It's nice for us as Latin people to see Star Wars really dive deep into this. Like, we have so much representation now, and I guess we've always been Star Wars marks, but I know specifically for you and me seeing Pedro Pascal, Diego Luna, Oscar Isaac, and now Rosario Dawson, man, we're even bigger marks for this stuff. I love the episode. Super samurai Western themed. It was a perfect Star Wars universe episode. I can't gush about it more. Now, let me ask you, who do you think is going to train this kid?
I was literally going to transition to that. I'm not too sure. Let's go a little fan fiction of that in just a second. I want to talk about lore for a little bit because that's more of a preview for next week's episode, or this coming up week's episode. So keep that thought, good brother. Let's start off more. Let's keep it a little bit what we missed though. So spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it. Obviously, you're this far with us having a drink in the cantina with your blue milk. You obviously know what happened here in the last few episodes of The Mandalorian. Let's talk about lore. I watch these episodes now way before you do. I want to say way before, a few hours before you do because
we have a weird schedule. Either I'm up late enough to watch it at 2 a.m.
or I'm up,
or you're up at like 6 a.m. watching it, and we'll kind of communicate. We're about 50-50 this season.
And now I'm a little, luckily I start work earlier now throughout the week, so I'm able to watch it right away, which I'm super excited for this coming up week. And because of what happened, the lore, let's get into it. I saw it happen, and I texted you right away. I had a giddy moment. It was a subtle, beautiful, unlike the movie way of giving us these little Easter eggs. We saw clones. Not just clones, though, good brother. We saw Snoke/Emperor because we heard Snoke's music, and obviously we know what all of this means. Snoke is Palpatine. Palpatine is blah, 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 blah. What did you think about how I thought brilliantly Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni brought this to us in this episode and what they led into it from the Carl Weathers episode into the Dave Filoni episode?
Because the Carl Weathers episode is where we get the discovery of now we have clones. We know what they're making. We're discovering that even though the Empire has fallen, quote unquote, they're very much alive and stronger than ever
because
at this moment.
Is 5 years past Return.
Yeah, so they're still strong, and we're discovering that. So when you first, they're doing a great job. Mando season 1, we think it's kind of dead, and we see stormtroopers kind of beat up, and the last stitch. And you're starting to discover, well, no, underground, they're still very powerful, and they're still making huge moves. So I love that. Carl Weathers episode was fantastic, by the way.
I love the edit they had to do, though, with the Gene guy. That was funny.
Yes. That one's weird. I mean, how did you not notice that?
The same way Game of Thrones didn't realize
that's a huge scene with a cup. We're talking about a human being in a 3-person shot.
Yeah, maybe.
Regardless.
Sure.
I love the setup. We're finding out, Grogu was at the Jedi Temple.
So what'd you think about that as a lore builder of, Order 66? Obviously, I love the connection between the Force with Rosario Dawson and with the baby, the child. I refuse to name them by their names.
Grogu.
So I love, though, that connection. He's grown the bond with Mando. Interesting, where we're talking about that he was there for Order 66. Do you think he really knew Yoda? Obviously, he had to have, right? Did they mention that in the episode, whether he knows Yoda?
They haven't mentioned it, and that's what's very interesting, is they're giving us so many little breadcrumbs of this could be a thing, or it can't be. It can be as connected as they need it to be or not need, whatever fits the story, and I appreciate that. Sometimes fan service is okay. Sometimes the obvious answer is okay.
And that's why it brings me to this moment right now. You asked, who's the Jedi that will be the one that interacts with the baby, the child, Grogu? I think it's one of two people. Just because of what we've seen with Filoni, we've seen with John, and we've seen what they've done with all this universe now and what might be moving forward. So one of two people. And because of the person that's in charge of the character I'm thinking of, Deborah Chow. It's either Obi-Wan or is Ezra.
I think it's Ezra.
It's one of the two.
But I don't think it's anything. I think at the end of the day, we'll see a Jedi, like maybe an Ezra, like someone we know, maybe even a Luke, who cares? I think the whole story going forward is going to be Mando's going to train the kid. He's going to be half Jedi, half Mandalorian. I think that's what we're going
now,
with.
good brother, you know me as well as anybody, maybe better than everybody other than my mother and my future
I know
wife.
You more. No, I love you more than Nikki does.
Who is my favorite Star Wars villain that isn't a mainstream character? Grand Admiral Thrawn. Yep. How ecstatic were you when you found that we were going to get the Blue Man himself in a live action Star Wars playground that, you know, everybody who's read these books, the Thrawn trilogy, knows that other than Bane, this is probably like the guy that most Star Wars people have wanted to go from the Legends. And Thrawn did show up in Rebels, I believe.
He showed up in Rebels.
So what do you think, though? Like, this is the guy. Everybody's been clamoring for this dude. And now that we know Thrawn is going to be around, we know we got Ewan McGregor, our boy Obi-Wan himself is down the pipeline.
It won't be a Mandalorian because we already know we're getting a Ahsoka Tano series. So I think that's all. Ezra, that's why I don't think we're getting. I think for Mandalorian, I'm under the assumption we're going to get either someone we really don't know, like a very low-name Jedi that's like they're going to introduce, or a Luke or Obi-Wan. And then the whole Mandalorian series is going to be Mando, the child, Jedi, Mandalorian bonding. I think Ahsoka Tano, we're going to get live-action Thrawn, live-action Ezra. That's where we get all that. And then Obi-Wan is going to deal with maybe the Darth Maul stuff. Because we have 3 live-action series coming.
Now, moving forward, though, with everything that we're having this world building, and we see that we have now the Jedis are here, the Mandalorians are here, the Sith are still lurking around because of these clones. We know what's going on with the Empire trying to make back.
Darksaber. There's like 4 mini-stories already. Just alone in the last 2-3 episodes, we've been set up for about 4 miniseries that have been announced pretty much.
So with that, we have these chances, and like you bring in these great actors like Esposito, aka Gus from Breaking Bad, to be Goth Median. But you mentioned Luke Skywalker just now. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they might be using television as the door opening, the gates, if you will, to recast some of these characters?
Yes.
Because they've already done it with Harrison Ford.
I think it's completely possible. And there's that huge rumor, Sebastian Stan.
It's been a rumor forever.
I don't know if I would fall into that right away. But I do think they're taking that chance. And I do think, you got to think, we have this argument all the time of how much is going to stay here, how much is going to go theaters. I think since you know how I feel. If it's in production now, that means they're willing to put it on Disney+. Movies like Aladdin and the next Toy Story and Lion King 2 that they've refused to start yet. I think they're like, no, we're not gonna start this. They're not gonna be in theater. And I would double down on that argument later in the show, especially with the Godzilla King Kong thing.
And Wonder Woman.
If it's not been made or in production, it's going to theaters. If it has been made or production, I've conceded months ago, yeah, they're gonna send them in there. But I refuse to think like Fast and Furious will be in the theaters, Mike.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same type of platforming that, let's say, Lion King does, where it literally has its own home base.
Godzilla King Kong is going to go to platform. It's possible. James Bond might go.
But
so that helps your argument. I'm just saying, the only way we split is I'm like, movies that aren't in production, that are just talked about, that are working on scripts, they're going to go to theaters.
We'll talk about that in just a second. So let's wrap up Mandalorian stuff really fast. What do you think happens moving forward?
We're gonna get from what it seems, and we've been guessing right all season about who's directing next episodes. I believe Robert Rodriguez is probably going to have the next episode. So I think we're going to get a real fun, silly adventure, which is fun. I think after the last two, I need a little bit
This
to
is the
digest.
side quest episode.
Like, I want something fun and cheesy and quirky. Like, give me some fish eggs. Give me some fun beasts. Give me some speed racers. Something fun. Then we can get back into it.
Do you still think we get the Empire moment you were thinking? The Empire Strikes Back moment this season? Now that
I
we're
think
this far?
so. I think the penultimate episode, like last season, where they get him and then they have the robot gets him.
Yeah.
I think we'll do the same thing this season. I think this season ends with Force Awakens style, where we get to the temple and possibly see who the Jedi is going to be that he meets.
Sure.
And that's the season. I do love that kind of ending.
Maybe that
or at
leads
least they
into-
just get there and like, you know, that Luke moment of like you see the hand or you turn around and the hood's up and oh my God, it's Obi-Wan. What? I think that's what we get as a season finale because what else is going to get people more excited? Because they're already going to film in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it sucks because Obi-Wan in canon would be dead already. He'd be a Force ghost by the time Grogu and Mando got to the temple. So,
and that's another thing is how much are we going to use Force ghosts? Because there's been rumors that we might use them a lot more differently than we have before. Favreau's always wanted to do that. So it's very curious if maybe it is Yoda who's the one that comes to talk to Mandalorian.
maybe that'd be awesome. So that's our thoughts though of the Mandalorian. We'll be here to review everything and preview everything as the series continues on season 2. But good brother, we were talking about it earlier. Wonder Woman 84 is going to HBO Max and theaters on December 25th, 2020. That's a Friday. So I think it's super smart of them. Get this movie out.
Yeah.
HBO Max needs the bump. It's a wonderful platform, but it's so far behind when it comes to Netflix and when it comes to Disney Plus. So this is a nice, wonderful marquee moment for the holidays. We saw how big Bird Box was a few holidays ago for Netflix. It's one thing when you can get it right into people's veins. This is that perfect moment. I think this is just another example of if the world stays the way it is and everything is backed up as it is, this is the wave of the future for people that own their own platforms. They don't have to share the money with anybody.
And I agree. In a short-term plan, that works perfectly, just like Disney Vote works perfectly, just like direct sequels works perfectly for a year or two. They don't work long-term. The movie theater's the same thing. In a year, we'll be back in the theaters. Anyway, I agree with you. I think this was a great decision because this is going to go against Soul now. So now you have counter programming. They're only leaving it on for a month, and they're still releasing the theaters. And like I said, in the Midwest, our theaters are still open right now.
Yeah.
So if there is an early screening, the Good Brothers might send Good Brother Alex to that.
We
wink.
have actually talked about this, and I think this is part of the conversation. So Wonder Woman 84, we're excited. It's just another
Good decision for overall.
Yeah.
We agree with the decision.
And it is something that you and I can linchpin as we move on with our conversation, our argument about what we think of the platform wars and the streaming wars. But there's also kind of this cool thing that you could rent out an entire movie theater for like $100.
Yep.
Like a whole screening. And to me, that's pretty wonderful, seeing as how 4 people to a theater is almost $80.
Exactly.
So I think that's actually a really cool like concept. But I think the reason why I bring that up, and you're talking about maybe sending you to the movie, is I think what we're seeing right now is the same thing that happened with drive-ins to movie theaters to where we're at right now with platforms is you're having people who these companies are going to find their own way to make their own money, have their own platform. And while I don't think the movie theater will ever go away, it's of the way of the drive-in. It's going to be much more of a novelty, not as novel as drive-in, but it won't be the same. It won't be the same chains that we've seen before. It won't be as massive in every corner at every mall. I think you're going to see a lot more tentpole movies being up there. So maybe if the Good Brother wins his side of this argument, maybe The Lion King is one of 12 movies that ends up getting released in movie theaters now.
I slightly agree. I'm going to change this. I think it's going to be we're not going to see them go away. I think we're going to see them become bigger and more commercialized.
Sure, so Universal Studios
Universal
presents AMC.
Yes, I think it's going to be one of those, like, you have to go to specific theaters to see specific movies. So it's kind of building off your theory, just more spread out. It's, well, in ways we're getting smaller, but in other ways we're going to get bigger. So you're going to go to a Disney theater, and they're going to up your price, but it's going to be beautiful.
Sure.
And it's going to look like the Disneyland Hotel, and you're going to see the best Disney movies. But you might have to go somewhere else to see Batman versus Superman 3D, live action, Batman's death. Whatever.
While Spider-Man will be on only platform because Disney only went platform.
And Sony's going to make you wait at home. Yeah.
So, that's where we're at right now, but it's always going to be this long-going argument. It is the Rock versus Austin from WrestleMania 15 to WrestleMania 18 rivalry. Good brother, one of our favorite people, Elliot Page, That's right, Elliot Page has announced he is transgender, the Umbrella Academy star, the X-Men star, the Inception star, the Juno star, the amazing actress, now actor, one of our favorite people, Elliot Page, came out with this amazing Instagram post, quote, "Hi friends, I want to share with you that I am trans. My pronouns are he, they, and my name is Elliot. I feel lucky to be writing this, to be here, to have arrived at this place in my life. I feel overwhelmingly gratitude for the incredible people who have supported me along this journey. I can't begin to express how remarkable it feels to finally love who I am enough to pursue my authentic self. I've been endlessly inspired by so many in the trans community. Thank you for your courage, your generosity, and ceaselessly working to make this world a more inclusive and compassionate place. I will offer whatever support I can and continue to strive for a more loving and equal society. I love that I am trans, and I love that I am queer. And more I hold myself close and fully embrace who I am. And the more I dream, and the more my heart grows, and the more I thrive. To all the trans people who deal with harassment, self-loathing, abuse, and threat of violence every day, I see you, I love you, and I will do everything I can to change this world for the better." End quote.
Good for him.
It's great news. I just think it's...
I love him. He's
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy. He does such a good job. For our fans that may be listening, don't know, the proper pronoun is just he or they.
Yeah.
You can use. I always say dude. I think dude is awesome.
Yeah.
And everyone's a dude,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have a gender to it.
Yeah, and Umbrella Academy actually has given him credits now. It's no longer Ellen Page,
Yep.
it's Elliot Page. So I just think it's really cool that you can be like so open about it right now. And even though he went through so many harassment when it was dropped, I still think the love that the community gave to him, because at the end of the day, it's about art, right? And as far as I'm concerned, Elliot Page has never made a bad movie. And the movies that aren't so great, he's never been bad in them. So shout out to, I love it. Like, to me, Kitty Pryde is awesome.
Yeah.
Juno is awesome. Like, I love these characters. I love what's funny is Elliot is my least favorite character in Umbrella Academy.
Really?
Yeah.
No, he's one of my favorites.
He's one. No,
They're
because
all my favorites.
I'll tell you why, and then we'll move on from why that character's my least favorite. You tore up a marriage. You killed the husband, and we're supposed to say you're the good guy?
He was a dick.
Because she showed up.
Nah,
He was
I
a
don't
man
think
of
so.
his time. I'm not going to blame somebody for being part of their time. Now, I blame the wife for playing the games with Elliot and the husband.
They're both victims. So wait, off that subject, I want to bring up something a little more serious.
Yeah.
So HBO put out their new show, Trans Hood. It's about 4 small children going through the same sort of thing that Elliot is going through. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? And they got a lot of backlash this year, just like Cuties did, in a different way of they're too young to know, and where do you stand on this?
So I have no problem putting my statement on this, right? I feel that if you feel like something and that's who you are, that's who you are.
I agree.
Do I think that we have to have nuance in the conversation where should a 9-year-old be having the same opportunities and the same type of leeway that a 17-year-old does, or an 18-year-old or 16-year-old? Imagine the freshmen in high school. They know who they are. They may not know who they are when they're 30, but they know how they feel. They can comprehend and give you an idea. A 7-year-old kind of can, but they don't get the gravitas of it. So I think that's what really makes parents and viewers scared.
Yeah,
It's not the trans thing. To me, it's not the trans thing. It's not the queer thing. It's do we know, scientifically speaking, in the brain that at what age you are coherent enough to make the decision? You know right from wrong. This isn't about right or wrong. This is about how you feel, what you feel inside.
And I think it's not even a homosexuality thing, because I agree with you on all of that. It's tough, and I get it. There's a lot of nuance to it of a 10-year-old. And there's a difference between being supportive and encouraging, and then allowing medical things
like
to go
a hormone thing.
It's tough for me to be. I don't know where I focus. I'm not a parent, but it makes me uncomfortable to think there's a difference between, okay, you feel this way, you like these people at 18, or when you're older, maybe you can do this. At the same time, maybe that 10-year-old does know more than me at this age.
I don't know. But here's the thing, though. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to empathize, and I'm willing to understand. Yeah. So, I may not have the answers,
aren't willing.
And to me, that's the only thing I can offer is my support. And if you want to have a conversation or you want to explain it and teach us, all down for it. So, and same thing that's why I've always loved Elliot, because He's been about it.
Yeah.
He's been about it. He's always talked it. He's
Real straight up.
And like people, not clout chasing. I don't think.
No.
I've never
Super
got that.
private, honestly.
Yeah. So I'm love it. All down for it. And shout out to Netflix and Umbrella Academy for doing the right thing and making sure they look out for their people like they did for Chappelle too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Netflix.
Does it right. Yeah.
Shout out to Netflix. Shout out to Japan and Universal Studios. Good brother. Super Nintendo World is scheduled to open on February 4th, 2001. We got a Mario Kart tour. It is. Do you want to know what the best part about this? This would have been awesome if we were 7. You want to know the best part about it though?
That we're in our 20s.
We're in our 30s. I'm in my 30s.
I'm in my 20s.
And I get to enjoy it when it comes to Universal Orlando. And
We're grown men with income.
With income that we can enjoy it. So
and no kids.
Yeah. And even we do, then we get to have cool family pictures. So what did you think about it? Obviously,
I love it.
It's just awesome.
We're for those that don't know, we're theme park nerds.
Super.
I've been at Disney a bunch of times, Universal a couple of times. Luckily through Cheer. As a coach, I get to go down there for our nationals.
We went for a family vacation.
It's great. It's fantastic. We're huge buffs about it. Like it's amazing. I would love to visit this place. It looks so good. What always helps is if this is successful, then we'll get one here eventually.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just got a new Star Wars land. I love these new lands where they have room for growth. Like they're not giving you everything right away, but they're giving you enough to be like, no, we're gonna get bigger, and like we'll give you like 3 rides and a couple restaurants, and then as time goes, we'll add a little bit more to what you like. Bowser's Castle looks gorgeous. The carts look great. The Yoshi's in the background.
Can we have a discussion a little bit as a grown adult and somebody who, obviously getting married next year, want to have children one day? You want to know what I find? So, for example, Great America, here in the Illinois area, Chicagoland area, I know I'm going to wait in lines, but I'm only really going to Six Flags for the roller coasters, the funnel cake, and that's about it. And to hang out with people
and
in
see
Gurney.
Bugs Bunny, yeah. See my boys.
And see the parade at the end. But, like, let's say I'm going to Orlando and I'm going to Disney World or I'm going to Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. If I understand full well that there's going to be thousands of people there. Yeah. So the chances of going on every ride that I want to do slim to none. You might get lucky and get a bunch of them out of the way. So that's why to me as an adult and somebody who's good, hopefully being a father one day, husband, I really need the aesthetic and the non-rides to be worth it. Mm-hmm. So when you make a Mario World, constantly entertainment, stimulus, let me be able to enjoy the fact that if I'm not standing in line for 45 minutes, I can at least walk around and be like, that's a cool place to take a picture. Yeah. That's a cool place to go tour.
But that's the way it is now. Like look at something like, the Great Navi ride or anything in Animal Kingdom or Star Wars Land. It all does that.
That's what reminds me of Star Wars.
If I'm gonna wait in line for Guardians, the Guardians Escape ride, at least I get a lot of cool, like I'm walking through the Guardian spaceship. I see Rocket Raccoon animatronics talk to me as I progress through the ride. Or the Great Star Tours where you had R2-D2 in the background or C-3PO or like you're in the Millennium Falcon or something. Like stuff like that is so cool. And I agree with you. I love that's the way of the future.
It has to be because this idea of it being just what Great America was, or like the original theme parks, it's wonderful. It was of its time.
It's almost like a carnival. Like Great America is like a huge carnival with Looney Tunes.
Yes, and there's some great still aesthetics to it. Yeah. But nothing like, if you're going to give me Mario Land, and I know full well that you only have 2 rides, I want that Mario Land to look cool, though. I want to be able to go touch a Goomba.
It's like the castle.
Exactly.
It's like Magic Kingdom might have the fewest rides compared to some of the newer parks, but it has the best aesthetics.
Yeah. And it's, and to me, that's the most important thing is let me be able to interact with this land. I love that they're using VR, AR, so that you could be on Rainbow Road while you're on a roller coaster.
So, cool,
so it's so super cool. So obviously, maybe in 15 years, we'll be able to take our kids there because we won't be going there anytime soon.
Well, what's your favorite theme park?
Should we do major chain or should we do, so let's take Six Flags out of there. Side of it,
that's an at home.
I'm an Islands of Adventure guy.
You like the Island Adventures?
I do love, what I loved about Universal Studios was in my kid brain growing up, I always had this like grand big thing. So when I did it at 17, it wasn't as majestic as I was.
You didn't get to go as much as
growing up. Yes, and like I didn't do the Jurassic Park ride at 7. I did at 17. So it just, to me, how I would have freaked out having seen that big T-Rex or Jaws coming out of the water. I would have loved to have done the Kong ride, but doing it later in life, I thought maybe Islands Adventure was just so much more entertaining because it was the superhero aesthetic. Yeah. I would love to do the Harry Potter world, the wizardry world of Harry Potter.
Nerd.
I'm not even a Harry Potter guy. I'm not a pothead in that sense. I love how they literally did what we were talking about. It was one of the first things that made it interactive to be in that. Have butterbeer, Butterball beer, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So we're stoked. We're Nintendo people. Give us as much of it straight to our veins. And please, if you're going to let me make a lightsaber with kyber crystals, let me make a Hyrulean shield and sword, damn it. Good brother, we have some sad news we got to get into today before we get into all of our wrestling talk. The one and only Pat Patterson has died at the age of 79. We've had a lot of deaths this year. Beyond just the horribleness of this pandemic and everything that's happening in this world, we always have to remember that life is going on, and this is one of those moments where life went on and somebody passed away, not because of the craziness of the world, just because life is life. And somebody who's complicated, has a lot of complications with some interesting things over the years, but also somebody who's super important to an entertainment that a lot of our fans love and that we love and a lot of the performers love. Pat Patterson passed away at the age of 79.
Yeah, this one hit me hard. This one probably hit me the hardest besides Chadwick Boseman all year. Because something we grew up with Pat Patterson.
A stooge.
He was a stooge. So like not only was he on our TV for our prime wrestling years, we were kind of like, it's like the Bulls. Like we were at the perfect age right at the end of it to really start to enjoy it and that run. And then to think like as we got older that he's the man behind the camera. He's, in movie world, he's like a Scorsese. In sports world, he's like a Phil Jackson. Like he is one of the greatest to do what he did behind the camera. Like everyone knows that. That's just a fact. So that one hit kind of hard. It's sad. It's sad to see everyone. Like he was so beloved. He did so much for the industry, and it just hits hard because that's it's like when we lost Dusty.
Yeah, and these guys are getting to that age already.
Yeah, man.
And it really sucks.
Hold on to Flair
as long as you can. Good brother, you ready to make some predictions and sound stupid?
What do we got?
We have War Games.
War Games
This Sunday, and Winter is here.
We have a Wednesday night pay-per-view sort of thing.
Yeah,
tonight.
so a free preview and a pay-per-view. So let's talk about it. Let's do a free preview first, okay? Since that's the Wednesday one. AEW Dynamite's Winter is here. We'll start off with this is what I found. So as of recording this, we're recording this on December 2nd, 2020, which is a Wednesday. So this is all subject to change because the shows haven't happened yet. So this is what we know of right now. Dr. Britt Baker versus Leah Hirsch in a singles match. Britt Baker. Yeah. Chris Jericho.
Wait, hold on. Before they do not know how to book a woman.
No, they have no idea how to do it. They have two titles, and they have so much talent there. Chris Jericho versus Frankie Kazarian. Jericho, but shout out to Frankie Kazarian getting on television. Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes versus Team Taz, Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs.
Powerhouse Hobbs gets the pin.
I agree. On who, though?
Darby.
Okay, I agree. Adam Page versus Alex Reynolds versus John Silver versus Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy versus Isaiah Cassidy versus Mark Quinn versus Matt Sydal versus Scorpio Sky versus Shawn Spears versus Orange Cassidy versus Kip Sabian versus Miro versus Wardlow versus MJF in the Battle Royal for the AEW Dynamite Diamond Ring. Who do you got?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I guess MJF.
It's MJF for Wardlow.
You don't think Hangman?
If you want to make it weird, no, I think he comes in later. Sammy Guevara.
Maybe?
Because that's all part of the inner circle so that
fun.
he can have a ring and
I mean,
MJF
it's all leading to MJF taking over the inner circle and Jericho going babyface.
I think so.
Right?
At some point. Or in some combination of that. Maybe Sammy Guevara becomes the babyface of that group because he's the literal babyface of that group. So that's what I think. And finally, for the AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega. I hear that battle cry. Who you got?
Jon Moxley.
Kenny Omega. And not only Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley gets screwed.
By who?
Kenta.
Really?
Because Kenta is going against Jon Moxley for the U.S. Championship at New
So
Japan.
this is that huge announcement they've been waiting to announce?
This is the announcement. This is changing the course of wrestling. They have a deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, they had one last year that didn't work out. So who cares?
So I think Kenta,
Remember,
our board.
your boys showed up for a week and then stopped showing up.
Yeah, I know.
What's his name?
My boy Matanza, Jeff Cobb. But that is the AEW Winter is here card. Anything else you want to talk about before we move on?
Book a better women's division.
I agree.
And I love, you know what? I'll say this section. I thought this all week. You know who's just won me over?
Who?
And it's taken years and years, and I am their biggest fan now? Young Bucks.
I know. I'm
man,
not a Young Bucks guy.
I can't read through their book. All their interviews. I'm like, man, these guys are actually really cool. Like, these guys, like, Man, it's kind of one of those, like, if you hate them, it's because you just kind of hate them to hate them. I feel like if you really, like, if you love wrestling, like, how do you hate the Young Bucks?
War Games, good brother. Let's start off with Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes.
I don't care anymore. They blew it.
Dexter Loomis.
Yeah, Dexter Loomis.
Leon Ruff versus Johnny Gargano versus Damian Priest for the NXT North American Championship.
Leon Ruff.
Damian Priest. In the first of 2 War Games matches, I don't know which one's going to main event.
Men's.
So
I think just story-wise, I'm not saying who's would be better because, like, every year it's literally
they're both going to be great. Yeah.
Like, you can literally, like, wait till night up to really tell, or they're both scoring A+ and 5 out of 5s.
Yeah.
But just story-wise, I think it makes more sense for the men to close out the show.
So let's go with the women's match. Team Shotzi Blackheart, Ember Moon, Rhea Ripley, and somebody to be announced probably today on NXT versus Team Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Toni Storm. Love Toni Storm. Love Candice LeRae. Love
I think
Ember Moon.
I think it's gonna be a Raquel Gonzalez coming out.
It's Team Candice wins.
I think Team Candice wins it.
And it'd be interesting to see.
I want to see who the face is gonna be though.
I don't know. Maybe it is.
They made an early rumor that possibly Mae Yem's heading back to NXT.
What about Tegan Knox? Is she still hurt? Is she
I don't
around?
know.
What happened to her? Because she had a story with Candice going around, right?
I thought she did, but I think she's still hurt.
Maybe she is. All right, so we're going with Team Candice?
I don't think there's no new signings that are coming.
No.
There's no one that hasn't been around. Is there anyone like an Ember
Chelsea
Moon
Green's hurt? No.
that's like has like low key been missing? You just don't remember.
Zia Lee, but
maybe,
they have that story going on with.
There's no Kevin Owens either on the main roster. Like I said, beside me, maybe we were like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, maybe. So we'll go with Team Candice. And finally, the Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Danny Burch, and Oney Lorcan in War Games.
Undisputed.
I go Pat McAfee.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You think they're just going to run that?
Because I think the Undisputed Era is going up. Or Kyle O'Reilly turns on Adam Cole.
I see that happening more than the other one. It's War Games. There's got to be 7 turns.
Yeah, but I definitely think somebody's turning this weekend.
Someone has to.
Because we're leading into it. I think the last great story that has to be done.
Because Pat McAfee's more of a Paul Heyman than he's going to be a wrestler. So I still see them needing another member to really round out the team.
I could see Kyle O'Reilly knocking out Adam Cole and Pat McAfee crawling, putting his hand over Adam Cole and do the 1, 2, 3, and everyone's like, "What the hell happened?" Like I could just hear Vince Joseph going crazy and Wade Barrett going like, "I knew it, Vic. I knew he was gonna do it." So that's where I'm going with that one. So I'll go with Pat McAfee's team.
Yeah.
And that is it, good brother. Any final thoughts on this week's episode of the Good Brothers?
No, final thoughts.
He's all over social media, Mercado21Alex, and of course, Mercado2121. That's on Twitter and on the Instagram. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. And the show's on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. We have swag, teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves.
Get your family members a When in Doubt Merc It Out shirt for the holidays.
Teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer, Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And please like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. For the good brother himself, Alex Mercado.
Adios.
I'm the good brother, Mike Mercado. We'll see you in the next episode of The Good Brothers here on the Mercado Airwaves
Network.
Thanks for joining us here on The Good Brothers, here on Mercado Airwaves.